Yep.
Okay. All right there. Hi there, folks out in Internet land again. Welcome to our third class of Comparative Witchcraft. And happily with me today I have an in-person member, so it won't be so much of a lecture format. But the last couple of weeks are primarily sort of an introductory as to what is energy, how different cultures perceive energy, and now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty with the beginning of this question: do you believe in magic? This is the first question that is presented to us in Chapter 2 of Real Energy. Because the rest of this book that we're going to run through actually will talk about varying forms of magic and how one uses it, how one perceives it, the question goes out there: do you believe in magic? Hopefully, if you're interested in classes like this, Comparative Witchcraft, you do believe in magic. Would you say you believe in magic?
I do believe that I believe in magic.
Oh, very good. There, yeah, see? So, we all believe in magic here. And if you don't, please feel free to argue and call me bad names, but not really. Anyway, so then another question is raised: is what is magic? Do you have any ideas of what magic actually is?
Magic actually is, I think that would be, it could be perceived by each person a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
My own take on magic would be tapping into and using energies that are all around us in the universe.
Mm-hmm. That's what presented in Chapter 2 here is really how we focus, how practitioners, people involved in the pagan art, shall we call them, will perceive magic, because there are three very general ways of looking at them, and I'll read them directly from the book. We have one, a general terms for arts, sciences, philosophies, and technologies concerned with A, understanding and using the various altered states of consciousness that make it possible to have access to and control over one's psychic talents, and B, the uses and abuses of those psychic talents to change interior and or exterior realities. In other words, the art, science, philosophy of dealing with inner and external forces of energy. For instance, the abuse of said thing would be damaging one's free will. Big creed within the Wiccan Read is to everyone has free will. So if you are abusing your psychic talent in order to ruin someone's free will, that would be an abuse of said. A practical use that will not go against the read would be something, for instance, as trying to, if someone's low, if someone's feeling low, and you're trying to work with various energies to bring them happiness, that would be a nice practical use of that. So the second definition would be a science and an art comprised of a system of concepts and methods that heighten human emotions, alter the electrochemical balance of the metabolism, and use associational techniques and devices to concentrate and focus this emotional energy, thus, etc., etc. But again, occasionally to affect the personal energy pattern, in other words, our aura, aural workings. Generally, it's a way to interact energetically with somebody else, perhaps on an emotional level. Perhaps, really for health, because metabolic systems can be, I don't want to say altered, but can be
influenced.
Yes, there you go, influenced by energy working. And the final definition that is presented in this book is a collection of rule-of-thumb techniques designed to get one's psychic talents to do more or less what one wants. More often than not, one hopes. But anyway. In other words, a way of flexing the psychic muscles is magic could be just using psychism, using psychic powers. And that brings us to our next question. What are psychic powers? I know that you've been speaking a little bit about your personal energy thing. Would you like to share anything about how you perceive psychic working?
Psychic powers to me, again, would be from my own abilities or own beliefs. Again, would be tapping into said energies, letting energies flow through you and using that energy to do something, whether it is influencing someone, like very recently, I think we were just talking about, I had a family member that was down and wanting to take or kind of meld our energies together and take the negative energy from her, make her feel, use the more positive energy to make her feel better. And so that's definitely another one. Or even influencing your own kind of universe to arrange in a way that's better for you.
I mean, the most popular idea of what psychic energy actually is the idea of the psychic reader, with tarot, palmistry, clairvoyance. All that would, of course, be what I would refer to, for lack of a better word, as mundane psychic, common, what a lot of people perceive as true psychic ability, true psychic workings. But let's go down to what the actual word means. It comes from the Greek psychikos, I believe is how you pronounce that, which actually means of the mind or soul. The root being psyche means breath, life, or soul. Again, my pronunciation could be horribly wrong, but the root of the word means breath, life, and soul. And according to one of the Oxford English dictionaries, the modern word psyche, which is derived from psychikos, is used to refer to psychological and or a spiritual entity, as in one psyche, would be how we exist on a higher level. Now, how the Greeks perceived it, of the mind or soul, so psychic workings were just using your mind and working with your higher self or the soul in order to perform tasks, what have you. So, now, what Isaac Bonowitz said in Rites of Worship, as you see, there's a bit of a indentation in the book if you've been following along. If you haven't, well, let's read a little bit about it. But another way of looking at the word psychic or psychical, it's another way of pronouncing it, is of pertaining to or concerned with phenomena or faculties which appear to transcend the laws of physics. So another form of psychic working is really anything that can't be explained by mundane physics, unless you go deep into quantum theory, which we covered a little bit last week. I hope I got my information right on that. But on a different kind of a basis, in Christian theology, it's kind of interesting. Anything that is psychic is pertaining to the natural or animal soul, the subconscious, as distinct from the spirit. So something that is psychic, Christian theologians like to say that we have both a spirit and therefore a psychic soul. So our spirit is the process that allows us to live as our spirit, and the soul would therefore be our natural animal base instincts, or that of the subconscious, which actually, therefore, the Christian view tends to make psychic mean very dark and shadowy. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the way that shamans will perceive it then is the shadow, which is a little different, but the shadow would be just part of what one would use for psychic work. And now that's a lot of the adjective and what psychic working actually is, but the term psychic used as either an adjective or as a noun as a noun, someone who is sensitive to non-physical forces and influences marked by extraordinary or mysterious sensitivity, perception, or understanding. So a psychic is someone who's able to tap into the energies around us. In other words, they are able to perceive what can't be seen, in the physical realm, what can't be seen, smelled, heard, etc. But are able to tap into that, and all of a sudden for instance, something that happens to me a lot is that I notice through my discussions and workings that I tend to smell things that actually aren't there. For instance, actually in this very room once I smelled gunpowder, and there's no way that there was gunpowder in here. If any of you have seen our rituals here, we do use flash paper, but I assure you there's no scent. So all of a sudden it's like, so that's a bit of another way, excuse me, stumbling over my words, another way of perception. Mm-hmm. Anything you'd like to add?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. We are open for discussion. So, but taking on a different realm, how psychologists will perceive it. And this is probably the most fascinating part to me, is that modern psychologists still use the word psychic to refer to all sorts of mental activities, including the perception and or manifestation of Jungian archetypes of the collective unconscious. Now, we need a little bit of backstory there. What are Jungian archetypes? Jungian archetypes are actually similar to how some people within the craft...
Slow down.
I talk very fast, I'm sorry. But anyway, a lot of people believe Jungian archetypes. I don't know if you're familiar with Jungian archetypes. You have the wise old man as Jungian archetype. The sweet ingenue innocent girl is another sort of Jungian archetype. Through that, within the craft, we have a few archetypes. The goddess being maiden, mother, and crone. And then the god being hero or lover, and then king and sorcerer. All of those, speaking through Jungian, how we perceive archetypes of personality is another way of looking at the psyche. Again, how it's still used today. So, Generally, what is magic but working with energy? Therefore, psychism is magic. And through ritual, which we'll get into a little bit later, ritual and spell working again is magic, how pagans use it by casting the circle and speaking with the ancestors and calling the god and the goddess and blessing the water and the salt and everything else, and so that there will be a pure representation of the elements. That is also magic. Meditation, in my opinion, because you are dealing with energies and definitely with chakras, is also a form of magic. And then all the way to the mundane affirmations, for instance, the act of burning a piece of paper that has your goal written on it in order for physical manifestation is definitely magic. So, we can split magic into two different sections. That of something called thaumaturgy and that of theurgy. What are these things? Thaumaturgy comes from the Greek thaumaturgia, which actually means wonder working. So the idea of working with energy. But really, originally, any miracle worker, as I read from the book here, any miracle worker was called a thaumaturgist, whether he or she was a holy person, a magician, or something called a prestidigitator. Word of the day. It actually means a stage magician. But the way we would refer to a thaumaturgy or thaumaturgist and thaumaturgy is magic that is done for mundane or secular purposes, such as making rain come or go, healing the sick, or improving the fertility of crops. Now, none of those things are mundane. I mean, if one can make it rain, that is certainly not mundane. So I prefer to take mundane and change it with the word practical. If one is trying to improve the fertility of crops, you're trying to being practical, feeding people, making it rain or making it stop raining, improving the weather or doing it for your needs. Practical. Secular, it doesn't healing the sick. You could make the argument that with certain miracles in history, healing the sick it would fall more under theurgy, which we'll get to shortly. But healing the sick is medicine. A medicine man would technically be a secular and practical way of dealing with magic, that being thaumaturgy, wonder making. Now, theurgy, also coming from the Greek, or theurgia, the Greek theurgia, which means God working, a little different. A theurgist would be a person who was, again from the book, a person who was using magic and ritual in an effort to contact deities or other benevolent spirits to attain mystical knowledge. The Karelian tradition, at the spring and fall illustrations, primarily the spring one, I believe. Please don't quote me on that. If there's any Karelian out there, please do inform me. During illustrations, there would be this fairly important ritual in which the Chancellor will bring forth an oracle. That is theurgy, because he's bringing forth an oracle, say, for the season, for the year, and if it's done during the spring illustration, it would be for the light half of the year. Here's what our oracle is, bring it through. That would be theurgy. Doing ritual for, well, to quote again the book, magic done for religious and or psychotherapeutic purposes. In other words, on Samhain, for instance, we contact the ancestors and we honor the beloved dead, doing magic for them, honoring those who have recently passed. All that would be theurgy. And that's pretty much what the general difference is. Thaumaturgy, practical and secular. Theurgy, religious, and dealing with that of deities. So if you're trying to get in touch with your personal deity, I know a lot of people that deal with Freya. I know a lot of people that deal with Animus. So when they are speaking with them or praying to them, that would be theurgy. Prayer, yes indeed, is magic. No matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you call it, prayer is a form of magic. And it is particularly a form of theurgy. So that sums up that little section. But we also have something called the targets and the goals. And there is a fine difference between them. It's really what you're doing in your magic. You need to, what is your target in the magic and what are you trying to do? They're two separate things. A lot of people believe it, well, particularly with manifestation. If one is trying to, say, manifest wealth, your goal is to get $50, for instance. You want to try and manifest $50. That's your goal. Your target, on the other hand, wouldn't necessarily be a $50 bill. Your target would be, I want to facilitate my ability to work more hours. I want to facilitate my ability in luck, in gambling, for instance, although that might incur some bad karma. But a very good example, again from the book here, is let's say you are an energy healer who is presented with a case of lung cancer. Do you pump lots of generic healing and growth energy into a person's body in general or into their lungs? Why or why not? Do you have an answer to that one? Would you put growth energy, healing energy, into the body in general or into the lungs? Why or why not?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I would say that I would want to put it into the whole body.
Okay.
Although the disease is in the lungs, I'd be concerned about it spreading, or I think your whole body works as a complete unit. And I would want to fill the whole body with this positive energy, not just focus it on that one area.
Right. Okay. So let's continue on. Remember that answer for me, please. If they are at a distance from you, do you visualize them as sick or as well? For instance, if this is a phone consultation, would you visualize them as sick or as well?
I would visualize them as being well.
Okay, all right. So most experienced healers know the different types of energy can produce different effects, right? Again, reading from the book. For example, you might send red energy to burn up the cancer cells in the client's lungs and then follow up with green energy to promote rapid growth of healthy tissue in the lungs and throughout the body. So, this is an interesting thing. You would focus on the body as a whole, and you would visualize them as well.
Definitely.
I would say, based upon the reading, you are doing what is proper. But the difference is, now I need to ask you this further, what is your goal and what is your target?
My target is the person, but my goal is for them to be healthy as a whole.
So you're saying your target is the person as a whole?
Their whole self, their whole energies, their whole life. I've had bad luck myself with focusing on something too closely and seeing other results in other places, or not getting it exactly that you wanted. So I stick with the pretty much as a whole, and like I said, it's not so much thinking about I want this cancer to go away, I want these lungs to be better, as I want the person, the whole person, the being to be healthy.
The thing that's put up here is that the target would actually be the cancer, and the goal would be the well person, which is why one would send the red energy to burn up the cancer. Okay, and then the green energy to promote new growth in the lungs and everywhere else, for instance. Or maybe, since you'll be focusing on the person as a whole, whether it's spread or not, red energy to anything that's malignant, and then green energy to the body as a whole to promote health and new growth. So again, I would still say you're on the right path. Actually, before I read this, I wouldn't think to separate the two things. Because what the issue is, if you were just to go in there and say, well, I'm looking to make the person healthy, I'm looking to inspire, again, new growth, well, then just send in the green energy. But you might serve to feed the cancer. In this particular example, you go in there and you say, well, I'm just going to promote new growth, green energy, healing energy, there it is, sending it through the person. You might actually grow. That's
actually my fear around the whole cancer. I don't want to give any energies to the cancer that could possibly make it worse.
And that's why this is two parts: sending them the red to destroy the malignants, and then sending them the green to heal what needs to be healed.
That makes total sense.
So therefore, the difference between, and to sum it up again, tumors would be the targets, and a healthy body would be the goal in this example. So now, that's again more thaumaturgy right there. And in the context of theurgy, what would be your goal? Manifestation using deity would be more on the theurgy level. So again, if you were trying to manifest growth at a temple, and so what would be your goal? What would be your target? In my opinion, and I'd like to hear yours afterwards. In my opinion, the goal would of course be greater numbers, but my target would actually be the temple itself, in order to promote positive energy within the temple, and sort of I would do probably sort of a cleansing and then a renewal, in order to up the feel and welcoming that is the temple,
Mhm.
and then do your own outreach there, and then hopefully the goal will come to pass through that.
I actually would agree, and I'm glad you added in that little end part too. The numbers would be what you're looking for, and I definitely would be pumping the energy into the temple and making it a positive place. As I found, a positive, welcoming place tends to almost like a magnet pull in like energies. So I like how you put the little spin on the end of it. I definitely think I agree 100% with that. Yeah.
Yeah, because the goal is not to affect, because that could be a little bit of a dangerous thing to do, because you don't want to go like, oh, my goal is the person, because that would be affecting free will. But opening your temple and charging the space with positive energies is more saying, we're allowing you to, not allowing you, we are welcoming you to come. We are asking you to come and join our safe space if you'd like. And well, therefore, unless you're a horribly negative person, you're going to be
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's again, we're not forcing you to come in. We're just being welcoming. And therefore, if you are a welcoming person, the facts will say that people will come to you.
Exactly.
So
just increasing your numbers would bring anyone. But like you're saying, is charging with a positive energy, knowing that like brings like. You want to bring in numbers, but you also want to bring in numbers of like-minded people who are going to benefit from this.
Which, frankly, I believe is actually happening here.
Very much so.
With these new people coming into our study groups and having all these opportunities, what we are doing through our work, sometimes unconsciously, is that we're charging the space, being welcoming and educating the people, and therefore we attract lovely people to come. So there we are. But now to look a bit, excuse me, can't talk today at all. To look at a bit more of ritual and how one looks at ritual. It doesn't matter if your results are going to be mundane, as in achieving efficiency at your job, the ingestion of coffee in order to alter your state of consciousness to awake, and thus to facilitate the accomplishment of your morning tasks. That is one type of ritual. The mundane, drinking an energy drink, drinking coffee, and all of a sudden, that's my morning ritual, and all of a sudden I'm ready to be awake. Change my altered state of consciousness, I'm awake. One sort of ritual. Sometimes the desired result of a ritual would be intellectual ones. As with the discoveries, again in the book, as with the discoveries made through various rituals known as the scientific method. The ritual, the scientific method, the experimentation, the studying, and all of that, that is the intellectual ritual. And finally, sometimes they might be artistic. What is an artistic ritual? For instance, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Playing a symphony in an orchestra, playing music, is a ritual, because it is written for you and you're following the same thing every time. Yes, there might be differences in tempo and in volume and in the arrangement as in which instruments are playing which. Yes, that might change, but the different ritual itself is the same. Rehearsal is a ritual.
It's very structured.
Structured, but to a point, because you notice you can do those subtle changes. For instance, coffee, maybe it's black one day, maybe it has cream and sugar the next, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing. But then again, they might be psychological, these rituals, as in the repetitive, this is a bit more negative, unfortunately, but as in the repetitive behavior of people suffering from obsessive-compulsive disorder. Technically, what they're going through are rituals. Unfortunately, they have come across as something from an unfortunate psychological illness, but still, that is a form of ritual. But for the purposes of our studies here, for the purpose of this book, again from reading directly, we'll restrict the use of the word ritual to refer to those that are designed to produce various magical, psychic, and or spiritual results. So what is ritual in context of, again, clergy, again, thaumaturgy? Well, every ritual, whether artistic, scientific, magical, or religious, and whether perceived by performers as a ritual or not, is an ordered sequence of events designed to produce a particular result. So on a more common level, particularly as far as in circle, is doing a religious ritual, what is the process? The process we do here, we come in, we cast the circle, we call the 4 eighths, the 4 quarters, being air, fire, water, and earth, and then we invoke goddess, god, ancestors, and then of course somewhere in there we also are blessing our various tools that represent the elements. All of that is done the first, and then we go into the body of the ritual. which would be, say, spell for manifestation, or in another ritual could be bringing out an oracle, or it could be dancing around the maypole, believe it or not, as a ritual. Actually, that I believe that is a star. No, it's not a star. It is. Do you know what it is? You're looking at me like you know what it is. I'm bad with the sabbats. Beltane or Beltana is certainly. Mayday, yes.
That's what I call it.
Mayday.
It makes sense. It's May 1st.
Yes. But it is Beltana. It's right. I swap some of them sometimes. I don't know why I do that. But depending on what the Sabbat is, if it's an S-spot, we are looking at the moon, doing rituals for that. So that's the body of the ritual. What happens again is we do what we did in the beginning in reverse. We will thank the ancestors, thank the god, thank the goddess. We will thank the quarters or the eights in reverse order, and then we will close the circle. But it's never truly closed, but there it is. And that would be a religious ritual. What do you do inside of it? I don't know if you have ever been in a religious ritual.
I have not. I've been more at the other end.
You've been...
which, again, we talked about doing the same type of thing, only differently. The ritual is something that I'm hoping to learn now, because I feel that they both strengthen or focus your energies to do said thing.
Well, before this, how would you perceive a ritual then? I'm curious.
The same type of idea. A ritual would be something to me which, again, it's something that you know, something that again, structured to an extent, would have an opening, a purpose, and then more importantly at the end, a closing, to close this, and then to go on.
The best thing I tend to think of, either if it's a daily ritual or if it's a religious ritual, for people, it's good if they have a constant sort of opening and a constant sort of closing, but the middle can change, however you need to be. We have a question out there?
Not a question, but a comment.
Oh, sure.
You can make, Rune Pagan says, you can make it a point to do it, if you can make it a point to do it often, computer maintenance becomes a lot of rituals.
Yeah.
Defragging, virus scans, etc.
Certainly, I wish I did that ritual more often. But yes, thank you, Rune Pagan. That is an interesting point. I actually didn't think about that, technologically speaking. Yeah. You can have a lot of rituals. Techno-mages. Yeah, techno-mages. There are people out there I've had the pleasure of starting grade school myself. And you have to take a class, it's a core class called Techno-Magic, and they are teaching you, precisely how to deal as kind of a sort of a techno-mage a little bit, and it helps to do some strange look from our other person out there. Am I angering people out there or some such?
No, it's not. Mages.
No, she's not into techno-magery, as it were. But no, it is a necessary part. Defragging is a necessary ritual, lest your computer become crap. Okay, but that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Probably the same thing that would put you in good computer health.
Exactly. So I'm going to save some of the body of this chapter, which is the laws of magic, for next week. But as I promised, for this particular week, we will be looking at our if I can get to it. There it is, the pre-exercise exercise, which is going to tell us primarily how to, it's a warm-up for the rest of the exercises we will be experiencing as we go through this book. And what is the purpose of the pre-exercise exercise? Again, from the book. Being aware of your own energies, where they are, what's happening in your body, for instance, is critical to solitary energy work, and even more so when working with others. Being aware of the energies around you can be critical to understanding how you learn. We'll begin with what we call the ambient energy, the energy that surrounds you at any given time. You must deal with ambient energy anytime you need to do anything at all, because the ways in which your surroundings affect you will affect how difficult or easy it is for you to do an exercise. Practice noticing ambient energy in different situations and what effect it has on you. How? How does one look at ambient energy? Do you have anything?
Not at the moment. I'm actually apologizing for the vibrating behind us at the moment.
Oh, I didn't even notice. That's a form of energy. That is ambient energy. Actually, that is ambient energy. Hearing the vibration of the cell phone is ambient energy, because how do you look at ambient energy? It's quite easy. As the book says again, it's a great quote I think I will use. It's many times somebody asks me what ambient energy is. It's easy to perceive it, because all you have to do is stop, look, listen, and remember. sights, smells, all of that, ambient energy. So this is a three-step exercise. So I'll try and read it and give you a general overview of what we should do for the preparation for next week. So you can do this exercise anywhere, as long as you pause, as long as you're not driving. You can do this exercise anywhere. And all you want to do is first take a look around yourself. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? Take in account the ambient energy, what is going on around you. For instance, you might be looking at a parking lot, a field of flowers, the inside of a subway car, wherever you are, your own living room. You might be under an open sky, under a roof, under an umbrella. It might be bright sunlight, candlelight, or as dark as it can be. Just take in where you are, and then what is around you, what's happening. Ask yourself questions like, is there a lot of space around me? Are there many bright colors, a few colorful spots, or is everything something called monochromatic? Is everything the same, gray, for instance? And then you should notice how people are around you. Are they close up to you? Are they far away? Are they all in a group? Are they standing around, doing their own thing? People watch for a little bit. If you're in a city, you'll see lots of bustling people right here. He's right here to me. She's over there working the computer. I'm now perceiving where they are. Then let's look at the noise level. Look at the noise level. Do you hear one voice? Mine. Do you hear several voices? Are people chattering? Are people yelling at each other? Is there music playing? Can you hear the ocean, for instance? Is there, God forbid, is there gunfire? Whatever's out there. Just notice your environment. What are you smelling? Is breakfast being cooked? Can you smell gasoline from cars outdoors? Wherever you are, it smells. Everything. For instance, are things soft around you? Feel things maybe a little bit. Feel where you are, where you're sitting. Are you comfortable? Are you uncomfortable? Is something digging into your back? Whatever. If something's digging into your back, this exercise probably won't work too well. But in other words, what is step one? Perceiving what is around you. Focusing on what is around you. Sight, sound, smells, touch, everything. Now step two, you must notice yourself. Notice your body. Are your muscles tight or loose? Are you feeling any pain? For instance, the jab in the back. Is your clothing comfortable? Are you warm, cold, just right, etc. How are you breathing? Are you slow and relaxed, or are you hyper? Are you like, have you just been frightened and you're just, you can't, is it deep, slow, shallow and light? What is it? How's your heart? Can you feel your heartbeat? Is it pounding? Is it just steady and nice? Things like that. Now, through noticing yourself, notice your feelings. How are you feeling right now? Hopefully you're interested right now, but some of you might be bored out of your brains. But no, are you feeling happy and upbeat? Are you grumpy and just being a little stick in the mud? What is your attitude right now? And once you have found all of that, move on to step three. And what is step three? The most important part. It's what it says right there. It's the most important part. So better listen. You need to remember what was going on around you when you were feeling what you were feeling. Okay? So remember what your body felt like when you were feeling good. Remember what your body felt like when you were feeling mellow. Remember what your body felt like when you were on edge, when you were pissed off. Things like that. How were you? Remember your emotions. Remember where you were. All of that. What do you have in your memory? But associate it to a feeling. Remember what was going on around you. Remember the ambient energy, and remember again the energy. What was helping you, what was hindering you. Discover those things, and note how tightly linked your body, mind, and energy are. So, then you will ask yourself the questions. This is kind of a meditation again. So, how does all of this affect your learning? Think back to how you had to learn something. Things like that. What was the environment like? The ambient noise around you. All of that. Were there many distractions? Were you easily distracted? How are you easily distracted? Or were you focused? Why in the heck were you focused? Ask yourself all these questions. And you will learn what it's like to perceive the energy around you. So again, this is a three-step process. This is the pre-exercise exercise. What do you have to do? You first have to take note of what's going on around you. Sights, smells, feel, everything, all of that. What's going on around you? What are the people doing around you? Where are you? Most importantly, ask yourself, where the hell am I, right? Then step 2, take note of yourself. Are you comfortable? Where are you? Particularly, where are you standing at this very moment? You might have said, well, I'm in the park in step 1, I'm in the park in step 2, I'm on a bench in the park. Where are you? How do you feel? Are you comfortable? How are you feeling? Are you angry? Are you upset? Are you happy? Are you content? Are you high? Let's hope not. Things like that. And finally, step 3, think about certain feelings. Think about where you were, how it felt to be happy. Where you were, how it felt to be angry. Where you were, all of that. And that is the pre-exercise exercise. And that will tell you how to deal with the ambient energy. So I believe that covers everything for this week. I wonder if you have anything you'd like to add?
I actually, as you were going over that, I was actually invoking memories in myself. And I know maybe for starters to practice it, it may be good to try that in a place where people are comfortable with it, a place where there is a lot of things that they've noticed. My own person living in this area, and living 3 blocks from the beach, as you were saying that, I remembered a place where there's a lot of stimulation, a lot of things of all the senses. This summer walking on the beach, hearing the sounds of the seagulls and the waves, feeling the sand on my feet, and, smelling the salt air, maybe low tide, and just something like that.
So so what he's doing right there is actually tapping into former ambient energies. He used to experience them.
And because of all of those emotions coming in, I find it easier then to think, how was I feeling at that point in time? What was going on through my mind? And you definitely start to get a realization of where I am in the universe and what's going on around me and how I feel.
I think that's what the pre-exercise exercise comes down to is, where are you in the universe? In this moment. Surpass the ego, in other words. Live in the moment. Because why do I say surpass the ego? Because a lot of people, your ego is what's worried about the future. Your ego is what's worried about what's happened in the past. Your ego, I can't pronounce that word. Your ego is how are you receiving me right now? No. Try and surpass the ego. Be where you are, and don't worry about the future right now. Don't worry about the past. What's past is, I think, general. What's past is past. But don't worry about the future when you're doing this exercise. Live in the now. Perceive what is around you. Soak it in, and then remember where you were, and remember other times. And that's how I would deal with tapping into ambient energy. So this fascinating little thing, I've actually done it myself recently, and I was actually. Where was it? Oh yes, I was sitting outside a while ago, and waiting for the bus, and there's a lot of people going around, and there's just began to be people watching, and I perceived what was going on. It smelled. Somebody was cooking outside. It was in the summer. Somebody was cooking outside, and there was kind of a weird chill on the air. I was fairly comfortable. I was actually a little annoyed at my day because it wasn't going the way I wanted it to. Just waiting, and all of a sudden I began to remember things. It will actually come to you. Remember things like, when I was happy. Remember this time, that I was sitting with a friend of mine talking about one of our favorite films because we like to talk film. And it's like, I remember how interested we all felt, how engaged and focused we were, as opposed to right now where I'd be like, squirrel, And that is what it comes down to, your personal perceptions. How to perceive. That's another way to call it. The exercise that teaches you how to perceive. So, next week we'll look a little bit about the laws of magic, and we will report back on how the pre-exercise exercise went for us, and and anything else that just happened to pop up in discussion. So, I'd like to thank all of you out there for listening in. I'd like to thank you for being here in person. And until next week, many blessings to you all.